/askreddit. What was the most absurd thing you've heard from an overly religious person? My friend's mom is mentally ill and hyper-religious. Bad combo. She was also a check forger. She honestly believed that every time she passed a bad check at a supermarket and got away with it, it was because angels were protecting her. If she got busted and banned from a store, it was because angels were protecting her, and had she not gotten caught, she would have gotten food poisoning and died. The woman literally had to drive 45 minutes to get to a supermarket because she was barred from every other one that was closer. And she'd refuse to pay for food with cash, because then the angels wouldn't have a chance to save her. How can I be saved if I don't sin? Yeah, she does seem to have her wires crossed. My parents were in the process of a divorce. My mom told the couple's counselor that my dad, who doesn't drink alcohol, had a drinking problem. When it was brought up in counseling, my dad was confused, and when they both looked at my mom, she said soda. She is fanatically religious. Glad he finally got free. She's had diarrhea in her diaper, so she's obviously sinned already. My cousin talking about his 3-month-old daughter at the time. Snakes represent the devil because they are spineless. They are literally just a spine. My grandma once told me when I was 7 that because I listen to music a lot, that when I die God will punish me by pouring melted lava in my ears. Man, that scared the hell out of me at the time. I bet that made things real awkward when you went to church the next weekend and the choir started spitting hymns. This is kinda weird, but one day this one friend of mine was telling us why she turned vegetarian. It's mainly because she saw this film about how animals are really mistreated and stuff and doesn't want to be part of it. It was a good and wholesome conversation until this one really religious girl spoke up out of nowhere and said, "Yeah, I know all these fast food places mistreat the animals, but I know Chick-fil-A doesn't, because they're in the faith." I haven't been able to stop thinking about this comment every time I drive by a Chick-fil-A ever since. FYI. I worked at a facility that processed chicken for Chick-fil-A. It was Tyson. Chick-fil-A doesn't grow their own chickens, slaughter them, or even marinate them. They contract with many other companies to do it. They are picky about the product they receive and will send it back. Jesus was a Baptist. A Southern Baptist. And that there were no dinosaurs. Those quite simply must be misidentified skeletons because A, God wouldn't let his perfect creations go extinct, B, the earth is only 6,000 years old anyway, therefore C, those are bones of modern animals that have been twisted, elongated, and reshaped by the process of burial and fossilization, and D, God would have mentioned them specifically in the Bible, so any fossils that can't be explained away by the reasons above are due to God placing intentionally misleading evidence in the fossil record as a test of faith. I dated a guy who felt that way about dinosaurs. I couldn't believe it, so I kept pushing for a reason. Those are the ones he gave me. The relationship didn't last much longer than this conversation. Yeah. Drag. TV shows are evil. They promote idol worshipping and they don't have anything that is in the Bible. That is how the devil reaches you. Every time you watch a series, 100 demons enter your body. That because they accepted Jesus into their heart, they can sin all they want. Then just pray to Jesus for forgiveness at the end of the day and they're all good. Remember, if you don't sin, Jesus died for nothing. I have a friend that believes that God killed Steve Irwin for teaching children about evolution. Same friend was also offended at Lego Movie 2 for being too gay. Because of the jokes with the sparkly vampire Lego. I tried to explain that if anything they were making gay-bashing jokes with that scene because of everything said about Twilight. But he still refuses. He also refuses to watch Endgame because of that one gay character in the support group at the beginning. My parents put me in a private Christian school for high school. One of the teachers that told me that anyone who isn't Christian is incapable of good. He explained it by saying that Christians are motivated by doing things for God and simply because they are right, but non-Christians do things for selfish reasons and that makes the act not good. I asked about donations and charity work and he said people did it to be seen by others and be praised. I asked about anonymous donations and genuinely good people, but he said that even those people were doing it because it made themselves feel good. This guy still teaches kids. Edit. I called him on that right then and there, and in his own words he was doing everything he did in life for God and that made all of it good. I looked up to that man. I'm disgusted in him now and disappointed in myself for not seeing through him sooner. If you pray hard enough, God will fix your arm. My limb won't just grow back, bud. Doesn't work like that. My gran is extremely religious and believes wholeheartedly that she can pray away the gay. She told me of a story of a man who went to their church, came out as gay and the whole church prayed away the gay and now he's married to a woman and had 2 kids. Poor guy. 2 instances come to mind. I overheard an older lady talking with some friends after church once. She said, "I'm so worried about my granddaughter. She moved in with her boyfriend. How could she? She was such a good girl." Now, granted, I don't exactly know any context or anything to this, but the way she said it made it sound like her granddaughter, who sounds like a decent human being, simply moved in with her boyfriend. And that was just the worst thing. Because they weren't married. I guess they all talked about me like that when I did it. Second thing, I was told that it is my Christian duty to bear my Christian husband kids after I said I didn't really want them. I was 16. He was the new youth pastor. And we were at a lake just to have fun. No sermons, no anything. Just a little church get-together for some fellowship. He's the reason that a little part of my not wanting to have kids is out of spite. TL, Doctor. An entire church service was planned by God to get me to join a church. Long story. This happened a few years ago. I was working with a girl who was around my age. She was married and she really wanted me to meet her husband. Her husband was a youth pastor or youth minister at some church. She gave me his number and we made plans to play basketball one Saturday. We played basketball and the pastor of the church played as well. He seemed pretty cool and he was joking around a lot. He asked me after the game was over if I was going to the service. I told him I wasn't religious and he was very relaxed and said he understood if I didn't go, but I was welcome. My friend and her husband convinced me to go to service on Sunday. Well, I thought church was a formal experience, so I dressed up with a shirt and tie and everything. But when I arrive it's like cool new church. My friend's husband was wearing flip-flops and board shorts. Anyway, we get seated and as soon as the service starts I knew I had made a huge mistake. A Christian rock band starts playing on stage and as the song is going on, I look over and my friend and her husband have their arms up in the air. The pastor comes out and gives his sermon. More songs. Finishing words. And then at the end, they ask everyone to bow their heads and close their eyes. And the pastor asks if we enjoyed the sermon today to raise our hand. What am I going to do? Not raise my hand. So, I raise my hand and someone puts a card into it. Service ends and I look at the card and it's for my contact information. Well, then I look over and my friend's husband is crying. And he says I am so happy that you have decided to become a Christian and to let Jesus Christ into your heart. I just replied I don't think I'm ready for labels or anything. But he was adamant that I was ready and he and his wife would help me. And then his wife reaches across and squeezes my hand and she's just saying there's just so much evidence that Christ exists. So much evidence. Needless to say I'm already uncomfortable, like on a date that has come on way too strong. But we're working our way out and they've given me this grab bag of church swag and a Bible. And we're sticking around to talk to the pastor. The pastor who I thought was pretty normal up to that point. He pulls me off to the side and we chit-chat about NFL games that afternoon and blah blah blah. And then he's like, I noticed you raise your hand at the end of our service today. God told me that today's sermon was going to be special. And I think this entire service was just for you. It was to bring you to our congregation. I never went back. That was the creepiest part by far. I called my family immediately after and was just like, what there? Because it felt so predatory, and I could see that same tactic being used on someone who was feeling depressed and them believing it. I don't know. It was bad. I think my friend knew that I didn't buy it, and she never made a big deal about me never returning or wanting to socialize with her husband. She was incredibly nice and a great person, but our beliefs were not in any way similar. Good times. At the funeral of my second cousin, who died suddenly at, I believe, age 42, leaving his wife widowed, and his 4-year-old son without a father. One person said to the widow, God has a plan. There's a reason your son came to you so late. I'm thinking, what, so that he can be left fatherless at age 4? I'm sure it will be buried in, but here I go. We were at a family gathering and there was a news report on saying a father raped his own daughter. One of my super religious relatives said fathers can't feel anything bad to their daughters, because Allah put a border in their lusts. The mother must be cheated on this poor man. I'm sure the daughter is not his own, and also she must seduced him. I hope he won't end up in jail, but the mother and the daughter should. Sadly, the talker was a woman with 2 daughters. This was the last time I saw her. When my grandfather was literally on his deathbed, at the age of 63, his mother, yes, still alive and well at 90-something, was holding his hand, telling him to prepare himself for hellfire and damnation because he was an Episcopalian and she was a Catholic. My grandfather changed camps for his late wife so they could get married. It was literally the most evil and absurd thing I've heard a person say to their own blood.